Hi, I'm Tiekka. Welcome to Everyday Ballet, where we bring gorgeous classical ballet principles, training, and style to everyday life. You don't need to know anything about ballet. I'm here to show you everything. In this video, I'm going to be doing a little tutu show and tell. So we're veering into the fashion lane, and of course ballet has its own particular aesthetic. And what could be more iconic than a classical tutu? So I'm going to be sharing with you this classical tutu, which happens to be a very special tutu, and I'm just so delighted you're here. Let's get started. In my career as a professional ballerina, I used to travel and do guest appearances in other places and with other companies. And so I would often travel, and this meant bringing my own costumes with me. And this happens to be my Black Swan tutu. So Black Swan, she is the evil character in Swan Lake. Her name's Odile, and she usually has basically the best costume in ballet. And I love this one because it actually has black velvet with the gold trim. So the gold trim gives it that little bit of pop, and it just really is such an elegant tutu. So we're going to take a closer look at this. Now, for those of you who don't know about the Black Swan, she is the femme fatale evil character from the great classical ballet Swan Lake. She has come in the third act to seduce the prince, and so she's a seductress. She's a femme fatale, and as you can see with this costume, it's very sexy. So for this particular tutu, you'll see it has a black velvet bodice. That's what we call this top part. And along with that, it has a sequins and gold and lace breastplate. Very, very simple. Now, something to notice here is that around the waistline there are not any jewels, and there's just no decoration really. And that's because this is where the man partners the woman when she's dancing, and we don't want anything for his hands to get caught on. So this is why there's nothing right here. And also, I think it actually makes it a very kind of sexy waistline. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this around now. And you'll see at the back we have these straps, which are also in the front, and these are elastic straps. Of course, in ballet we're bending and stretching quite a bit, so we need that elasticity so that the costume will stay on, but we can still move. And you'll notice that they're a skin color. This is close to my skin color, which means that the audience can't really see them. So it looks like you're wearing a lovely black tie gown, strapless gown at the ballet. And then the elastic also carries here to the top part of the tutu so that it kind of grips the body a little bit and stays on as it's supposed to, so we don't have any costume malfunctions. We have some hook and eye closures here, and let's see, get that open here. So these are the hooks, and they're these metal hooks, and then they're the eyes, which are the fasteners. And this goes all the way down until we get to the tulle of the tutu. So I'm just going to open that up, and we'll talk a little bit more about hooks and eyes later. Inside the bodice, you can see the paneling construction. What this does is it allows the tutu to be built in these panels. And if one part of the tutu rips, it's fairly easy to be able to replace the panel. The paneling construction also helps to give that beautiful kind of defined shape in the waist, because everything kind of comes down to a V along the waistline. And we also have something here that's very common among tutus, and that is some illusion fabric, some illusion netting fabric. And this is just a nude color piece of net, and it's kind of like a modesty panel. You know, it's right here in the décolleté area. Sometimes there's an awful lot of this, and it comes up here, and jewels will be attached to that. It'll look like the ballerina's wearing a necklace, but really it's jewels and sequins that are attached to this netting. So that is the inside of the bodice. Now the bodice is just this top part. You'll notice we have this big, thick waistband. That is the beginning of what we call the basque, or yoke of a tutu. And I'm going to turn it back around so that we can show you what that looks like. So on the front side, This little point is where the bodice ends, and this part can be unattached from the tutu and repaired. And then this part where the tutu attaches is called the yoke, or sometimes it's called the basque of a tutu. So this has to be a really sturdy part because the man's hands are right here partnering the woman in ballet, and it's also the place where the tulle attaches for the tutu itself. So again, we're going to turn it back around so you can see the bottom half here of the top part of our tutu. So this big old waistband is the beginning of our basque or yoke, and that's where the bodice is attached. There's stitching that attaches the bodice all the way around. You can see it's a kind of a sturdy canvas cotton material with the velvet on the outside, and just like the top part, it's got this hook and eye closure, so it closes like this, and the biggest hook is at the waistline. Now, let's talk a little bit about these hooks and eyes. Why do we have hooks and eyes? That seems like it would be kind of inconvenient. Well, the reason for the hooks and eyes is that it's a way to fasten the costume piece by piece. Hopefully, there we go, I can get them in there. I know it seems like it would take a lot of time to get dressed, and indeed, we always need a dresser, somebody to really make sure our hooks and eyes are fastened at the back of our tutu. But the reason that we have hooks and eyes is actually a really good one. We have hooks and eyes because the man is partnering the woman around her waist, around her back, and we wouldn't want something like a zipper. You know, if you had something that broke, right, a zipper, it would break the whole thing and the whole costume would come apart. But with hooks and eyes, you could have stress on one part and one hook or eye could break, but the rest of the costume will stay intact. So it's just kind of a little bit of an insurance policy to make sure that the costume stays on as the ballerina is dancing. Another reason that hooks and eyes are used to close up the costumes is because you can actually adjust the size of the tutu and how it fits by adding another row of eyes. So if you needed the costume to be a little bit smaller up top, you would put another row here and fasten them like that. And if you needed it to be a little bit larger, you would put it here. With the companies that I was dancing with, there would be several rows of hooks and eyes. It's a really easy way to make adjustments to fit each individual ballerina. On the inside, we have like a netting, the tulle comes up, and then there are two leg holes that have elastic around them. So the basque or yoke comes down and it attaches to this part. And then we flip it over, and we have the tutu itself. So the tutu is actually graduated layers of tulle. Close to the legs, you have the shorter layers, and then gradually they get longer and longer until you have the full skirt. Now, I believe in Paris, a regulation tutu is actually 13 layers of tulle, and I'm gonna try and count these layers of tulle to see how many are actually on this tutu. So starting here, this is layer 1. It's a really, really short little layer. And then we have layer 2, which is a little bit longer, layer 3, layer 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think that's 11, 12, my goodness, I think we have 13 and a little bit of netting around the top layer. So maybe this would qualify for a regulation tutu in Paris. Now, in order to keep the tutu from drooping too much, we actually have, and I won't be able to show this to you because it's something that has to be felt, but I actually have a hoop, a plastic hoop inside this skirt. And that plastic hoop goes around right about here. And what it does is it provides kind of a shelf for the tulle to lay on so that the decoration of the costume and the fabric itself don't droop too much. The tulle is actually stuck together by all of these little stitches. They look like little buds on the underside of the tutu. They're all in black thread, so you can't really see them. This is called tacking. And what it is it's a stitch that gathers a couple of layers of tulle together so that they don't start coming apart as the dancer is dancing. And it just keeps the tutu nice and concise and keeps that shape of that kind of pancake kind of skirt. This tulle isn't the best example because this tutu's been living under my bed and it's been a bit crumpled, but you can kind of see what we're talking about here. So that is sort of the construction of this tutu. Now, if we go to the top of the actual tutu skirt, you will see that it has this netting layer, which gives it a little bit of twinkle. And then we also have these appliques, which are jeweled and laced with a little bit of gold cording. And from the audience, that's going to really show up very, very nicely against this black. So that is the basic tutu, but actually there are a couple more pieces here. There are little arm pieces that go with this tutu. So this is a little sleeve, and I'm going to show you how this attaches. So we've got to turn our tutu around here, and you can see if I can open it up for you. Back here, there's some large snaps, and this actually has a little snap on it. So what we do is we snap this little sleeve on, and we take it around, and then you'll see here there's a little elastic with a little snap as well, and that's meant to go around this elastic here at the back. So in that way, this kind of snaps on and it becomes a little sleeve. So the way this works is the dancer gets into the costume, and then they put their arm through, let's see if I can get it the right way, there we go, through here, and then there's a little elastic, and it goes on so that this comes and it basically hangs off of their shoulder. And so it's got that same sort of applique, and it just makes a nice little sleeve there with just a little bit of dazzle. So here is the completed look of the tutu. The sleeves would actually sit kind of out here like this, but you get the idea. I actually think this tutu does well without any sleeves at all. It just is very, very elegant. So this is the completed black swan tutu. Now, you may recall at the beginning of this segment, I said this is a very special tutu. This tutu actually has a few secrets to it. So when I would perform, I would go and I'd have to carry my costumes, and I would be doing various dances, so I wasn't always doing the same piece. And so when we made this tutu, I spoke with the wardrobe mistress who was making it for me, and we talked about how we might be able to prevent me from having to carry so many costumes. So this black swan tutu actually transforms. Well, how does it do that? Well, you'll notice there's these decorations around, and so what we decided is that we would use a system of snaps so that we could remove these decorations and replace, or, well, you're about to see. So I'm just going to unsnap this really quickly. Ta-da! Now we have a Don Quixote tutu. So Don Q, as we call it, is actually, it's a full-length ballet, but there is a pas de deux that is taken from it that's very famous. It is the third act pas de deux, and so often people wear a red or a black and red tutu. So this now has the red and gold, and the appliques are there. Now these are sewn on, so they're not going anywhere, but it suddenly transforms. And actually there's just a little bit more to this tutu. We have a nice bright red rose. It's a little bit smushed because it's been packed away, and that just snaps on. And then we also have some little sleeves, and these sleeves get worn like this. So the shoulder is bare, and you can imagine the sleeves out here. I wish I could put this tutu on, but it's like 25 years old and I'm just not that small anymore. So this is the lovely Don Quixote tutu, and I just really hope you've enjoyed this little tutu show and tell. It's been really fun to tell you a little bit about these costumes, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments, and until next time, happy dancing.